We've all been there. You make a verbal agreement with a friend, family member, or even a business partner, and things go south. Suddenly, it turns into a legal he said, she said nightmare. Well, today we're diving into a topic that can save you headaches, heartaches, and maybe even a few court dates. Let's start with the basics. What is an agreement? An agreement is basically a mutual understanding between two or more persons about their relative rights and duties regarding past or future performances. Throughout history, humans have relied on agreements to facilitate trade, governance, and relationships. However, it wasn't until the advent of written language that agreements truly began to take shape in a tangible and enforceable form. The practice of documenting agreements dates back to as far as to around 3000 BC. Ancient civilizations like the Mesopotamians, Egyptians, and Greeks utilized written contracts to formalize transactions, marriages, and land ownership. These early written agreements were often inscribed on clay tablets, papyrus scrolls, or stone slabs, serving as tangible evidence of the agreed-upon terms. Fast forward to the modern era, and the importance of written agreements remains as crucial as ever. In today's complex world, verbal agreements are prone to misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and even deliberate manipulation. A written agreement provides clarity, outlining the rights, responsibilities, and expectations of each party involved. Now, you may be thinking, why bother with writing when it's just a simple agreement with a friend? Michael is my friend, and I've known him forever. Well, a written agreement prevents people from forgetting what was agreed upon, denying their words, or changing their story. A written agreement can serve to protect friendships. It can also act as a reference point and a means of resolving disputes should they arise. A written agreement is like a magic shield, protecting your expectations. Now, before you go out there and start drafting agreements, let's explore what makes an agreement legally binding. As defined by the Supreme Court of Nigeria, an agreement is legally binding where there is an offer and acceptance that is accepted backed by consideration. Therefore, a written agreement is legally binding if it includes the following elements. 1. Offer and acceptance. This means there must be a clear offer made by one party and an unequivocal acceptance of that offer by the other party. 2. Consideration. This refers to something of value exchanged between the parties, such as goods, services, or money. 3. Intention. The parties involved must demonstrate a clear intention to enter into a legally binding agreement. And lastly, capacity. All parties entering into the contract must have the legal capacity to do so. This means they must be of sound mind, of legal age, and not under any undue influence or duress. So now that we understand what an agreement is and why it's important to have it in writing, what types of agreements should you have in writing? Well, basically every agreement that involves money, whether it's a business contract, a rental agreement, or even just a simple promise between friends. Putting it down on paper helps clarify expectations and protects everyone involved. For example, here's a list of agreements that should be in writing. Now that you've identified the types of agreements to have in writing, what is usually contained in a written agreement? Normally, some of the things a written agreement contains are parties involved, purpose objective, terms and conditions, termination clause, payment details, and most importantly, dispute resolution. Another important aspect that warrants documentation, albeit not strictly an agreement, is gift. Yes, that's right, gift. When you receive a gift, while it may seem unconventional to formalize it in writing, certain circumstances necessitate it. You might question the need to document gifts, given that they often involve no monetary exchange. However, specific types of gifts, particularly those involving substantial assets such as land, greatly benefit from written documentation. The rationale behind this lies in considerations of legal clarity, especially concerning matters of inheritance. In cases where land is gifted without written documentation and the donor passes away, establishing the gift's validity becomes challenging. Without a formal deed of gift, proving ownership of the land becomes difficult. Thus, the absence of written documentation can jeopardize the rightful ownership of the gifted property, which is why it is important to formalize such transactions. Now that we understand the importance of formal documentation, it's also important to note that it's not enough to just make an agreement. You have to make a good agreement, and this is the point where Now I know what you might be thinking. Lawyers are expensive. They talk in circles and nobody understands them. Why can't I just use a template I found online? While you can draft basic agreements yourself, having a lawyer involved adds another layer of protection, and also consider it an investment in peace of mind. Many lawyers offer flat fee services for basic agreements, so it's often more affordable than you might think. Plus, a well-drafted agreement can save you a ton in potential legal fees down the road if things go wrong. Take a look at this example. One side has a professionally drafted agreement, while the other has a hastily written agreement on a piece of paper. Can you guess which one holds up in court? Lastly, even though written agreements are crucial for clarity and legal protection, it's important to understand that oral agreements are enforceable in a court of law. For example, the Supreme Court stated in the normal cause of human affairs, an agreement is usually formed either in writing or oral, so also by conduct. It is not only when it is engraved in stone that it is said to exist. Before enforcing an oral agreement, courts typically look at several key factors to determine its enforceability, such as whether there was a clear offer and acceptance, whether there was a mutual intention between the parties to enter into a binding agreement, or whether there was exchange of something of value between the parties, such as services, promise, or other forms of benefit. While oral agreements can be enforceable, they often lack the clarity and specificity of written agreements, making them more susceptible to disputes and misunderstandings. But I guess that's a video for another day. So, whether it's buying or selling a house, starting a business partnership, renting a property, or even just lending money to a friend, always remember to get it in writing and, if possible, get a lawyer to do it for you. Your future self will thank you. Before you go, here's a quick recap of everything discussed in this video. I hope this video has helped you better understand the importance of having agreements in writing and why having a lawyer make one for you can make all the difference. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and hit that like button if you learned something valuable today. And let me know in the comments what kind of agreements you typically get in writing. See you next time.